G'day folks, Tony Angus here, out and about on a beautiful winter's day in Melbourne. And I think opening this discussion might actually shed some light onto why it is that the kids today are filled with so much angst and why there's so much suicide and drug use. And so I'm not saying I've got the answers, but I've got a couple of questions and I've got some thoughts, as you would expect. So bear with me. So I was running a training program for a group of workers from a residential care unit. And so if you're unfamiliar with what that means, it's like a foster program but outside of a house. That these residential care businesses, organisations, they will purchase or lease a home, and if child protection removes a child from a dangerous, risky circumstance, then they might put them in this residential care unit for care by youth workers or disability workers. And it keeps those kids safe from, abuse or drugs or whatever it is going on in that child's life at that time. And so I was dealing with some people from this residential care unit about managing aggression, etc. That was the focus of the training. And one of the ladies described a situation where they were managing the behaviour of a young 16-year-old girl. And this girl was struggling with her behaviour because she was addicted to methamphetamine, specifically ice. And she actually made the comment to this worker, "I can't get off ice because I just can't find anything that makes me feel as good." And I thought, well, this is just classic, isn't it? So I think there is the root of the problem. That this child has been deluded into believing that life is about feeling good. And possibly many of our children feel the same or experience the same delusion. Because if you ever ask a teenager what they want to do on the weekend, you'll likely get the answer relating to just chill. I just want to chill. Well, what are you doing with your friends? Just chilling. And it seems as if what they're actually trying to do is avoid anything that puts them out of their ultimate comfort zone. And so if you think about even PlayStation games and Xbox games and those sorts of things, they are a beautiful comfort zone. I can sit there wrapped in my own thoughts, sit there in a comfortable chair, I can play a game for X amount of time, not be bothered by anyone, not have any demands made of me, I can just chill. And here's the problem. Somehow these kids were raised in the belief that life was designed to make them happy, as if there was some contract at birth that said, here you are, welcome to the world, sign here, from now on you will be made to experience happiness. And so of course, if that's the case, if that's what they believe, they are in for a long and rather rude awakening, because life isn't about happiness. The only guarantee that life brings you is that you will live, and you will then be subjected to all of the things that life brings. And so what does that include? Well, it includes the full array of emotions. So we're talking about anger, sadness, embarrassment, hurt. We're talking about being humiliated. We're talking about being jealous and envious. And yes, we're talking about being happy. But happiness is like every other emotion. It comes parceled into specific circumstance. So you have things that make you temporarily happy in the same way that you make things happen that will make you temporarily angry, that make things temporarily sad, that make you feel temporarily embarrassed. And we're confusing life with happiness, or happiness as being the ultimate goal in life, and it isn't. I think there's also an amazing confusion about happiness itself, that what people are actually talking about isn't happiness, it's contentment. A general feeling of contentment. So if we go back, the only thing that life guarantees you is to experience all of the emotions. And that's a good thing. You should be glad to be given life in the first place, and to be given the opportunity to experience sadness, and experience happiness, and experience anger, and experience embarrassment, because it means you are living a full and rich and whole life. That if we're going to deny each other the right, and deny yourself the right to feel sadness, if you're going to avoid that at all costs, then you have avoided a massive part of life. And you've denied yourself a massive part of life. So don't try and aim for happiness. My sense is that in aiming for happiness, in this constant search for happiness, that constant search in itself is making you unhappy, unsettled, as if without this happiness thing, that life has no meaning. But again, the meaning of life is to experience, not to just experience happiness. So, here you are living your life, looking for happiness. My question to you is, how would you know when you found it? If you've been on this constant search for things that make you happy, how would you know when you are? Does happiness suddenly pop up and go, here I am? Does someone knock on your door and say, you're now happy, by the way? Do you get a letter in the mail? But what happens? Does your hair stand up on end? Do you just feel like giggling uncontrollably? And so I put it to you that maybe you are living a happy life right now, despite your constant search for happiness. And maybe if you stop living in this delusional state that says, I'm supposed to be searching for ultimate meaning and ultimate happiness, perhaps if you let yourself free of that silly obligation, you might actually feel a little bit more contentment in your life. Have you ever watched those shows, those dating programs like The Bachelor, or we have one in Australia called Farmer Wants a Wife, and there's all these other ones, crazy reality television shows. And I put it to you that the reason that statistically those shows are unsuccessful in pairing people is because if you have a constant selection in front of you, how do you know which one is right? How do you know which one's going to make you happy if there's more to evaluate? And there's always more to evaluate in everything. Let's imagine you go into a supermarket and I tell you to go into a supermarket and buy the world's best cereal. What does that mean you have to do? Do you have to travel the world purchasing every cereal known to man and then sample them? Well, that's just ludicrous. But what if I said to you, find a cereal that you like? Well, you do that in 5 minutes. You probably already know one. And so this is the problem with The Bachelor, for example. These guys are presented, or let's just use guys for now, so obviously the Bachelorette as well, and you just reverse the genders. So in The Bachelor, this guy is presented with 25 beautiful women, wonderful women, no worries at all. And he goes on a series of dates with them. Now, so there's a real sense in which The Bachelor, when confronted by all these women, goes out with one. He probably thinks to himself, well, she was fantastic. We had a real rapport. I could see myself with her, but there's 24 others. So I better test the water there. Now, if you're constantly testing the water, how do you know when you've found what you're looking for? And so And relationships are complex, but so is happiness. It's a complex thing. So you can test happiness in all sorts of ways. You could buy new clothes, you can buy a wonderful car, you can live in a wonderful suburb, you can join a health club and get your body right, you can have a wonderful dating relationship or end up madly in love. You can move to a country you've always wanted to live in, you can do lots of travel, you can get fat eating the best food in the world, right? But are any of those individual things going to make you happy? And the answer is probably not. We know of many, many wealthy people that get to do all of those things and are not happy. And possibly the quest for happiness is a fallacy. And possibly the quest itself, the constant striving and the constant questioning why you're not happy, possibly that's the reason you're not happy. So I think to expand on the notion of experience emotion being healthy, if you get to experience emotion and you come out the other side of that, then one thing you've learned is that you can survive. That experiencing emotion is not debilitating. It doesn't crush you under its weight. It might feel like that, but then later on you work out you can actually cope. And having coping skills is a massive part of living today. Being able to cope with the little things that life throws you is hugely important. One of the things that we know about kids today is that they have a diminished capacity for coping and for resilience. And possibly it's because they live their lives in this deluded state. Instead of going out and experiencing life in all its richness and then coming out the other side going, okay, I have some self-awareness and I have some coping skills and some resilience to allow me to go forward, to move forward, and indeed to then engage others on emotional levels. So you'll be a better partner or a spouse because you're able to cope with your own emotion and help others cope with theirs. And so there's this sort of expanding effect, this effect you can have on other people. But if you just want to chill, if that's your whole goal in life, and if you're on a constant search for happiness, then it's unhealthy. So now, back to this 16-year-old girl in residential care. I'm not suggesting for one moment that she hasn't gone through adversity in her life and hasn't developed some measure of resilience. But possibly, quite possibly, her deluded state in believing that she's supposed to feel good has led her to this depressed and drug-dependent state. So as we raise our children, think about having them experience loss, having them experience gain, and being able to discuss those. Having them experience embarrassment and know that you live through it. Have them experience anger, but at least be able to parcel that out in a measured way and in an appropriate way, which they'll learn to do if they understand what emotions are for and that they are healthy. Guys, if this little conversation has resonated with you, make sure you hit like and click share. Make sure you've subscribed to the channel. And also, if you want me to talk about something in any something specific, just let me know. If you've got something to add and something to share, I'd be happy to hear about it, because you know what, I'm not the only person with an opinion in this planet. Good on you guys. As always, a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon. Ciao for now.